Hey everyone, welcome to the first parts of my One Piece D&D timeline videos. I'm making this 3-part series as a celebration of One Piece D&D's finale, which was just streamed today, as of recording this video, not when this is uploaded. For those of you unaware, One Piece D&D is a One Piece-based campaign set 22 years before the current storyline, DM'd by Rustage, played by Tekking101, LostPause, 2 Spooky, and Briggs. It's streamed on Twitch and posted to his second channel, Rustage2, once edited. One more thing before we begin, I'm not going to go into too much detail on the events that transpire as if this was an audiobook or something. This is 100% a recap for anyone needing a refresher and not a replacement to watch instead of the actual campaign. Meaning, I will only, if at all, briefly mention a character's motivations and or backstory, as I'm assuming you already know who they are. Anyway, let's go!
Hold up your flagons and raise up the sails. Masthead of Latin, so we take them off our tails. We don't fly off the wagon, we don't leave any ale. And so we go trekking with the luck that never fails.
Our crew awakened shipwrecked on a small island devoid of life. Their last memory consisted of a typhoon striking their ship and destroying it before falling unconscious. The crimson blood belonging to the corpses of dead Marines and pirates alike were strewn about, painting the beach's natural white sand with a deep red. Along with the bodies were also pieces of wooden vessels scattered across the small strip of land. Immediately upon opening their eyes, the crew are met with a rope-bound girl we learn to be Pearl, held down at gunpoint by 2 surviving Marines. After knocking them out with ease, the crew, William, Duros, Verona, and Ragnar, plus Pearl, set sail on a nearby rowboat, just barely large enough for the 5. Next up, they're gonna need a new ship, so Verona leads them to the nearby Gallows Island. Pearl, as thanks for their aid, informs them of a shipwright on that island they can possibly discuss a deal with for a new ship. They reach their destination, meet the shipwright, but have no money. Instead, the man enlists the crew to help find his son, who went missing roughly 2 days ago. On their search, they encounter a kid named Little Timmy at the Sparrow's Eye Tavern. William beats the kid at poker and gives him a spoon out of pity, which just so happens to be outlawed on this island. So, Timmy was sentenced to be executed. With his help, though, they discover he was connected to a pirate crew by the name of the Anglers. With some more time passed investigating the nearby area and questioning the denizens, they eventually discover the Anglers have their base inside the wine cellar of the mayor's mansion. Managing to sneak in, they defeat Captain Rodney Poldark of the Angler Pirates, and to the crew's relief, find Semillian relatively safe. Upon returning his son to him, the shipwrights and his son embrace in a heartfelt reunion. Making good on his promise, the crew is rewarded with their new ship, the Yogi Poo, since its figurehead is a bear. Also, as a bonus token of his thanks, the man gifted them a treasure map to a supposed devil fruit. Setting off from Gallows Island, the 5 disembark towards the X. On the way, they stop at a mostly uninhabited island for supplies before William discovers and murders the only residents of the island, who just so happens to be Marine Captain Mero's father, since he felt bad for him. A few days of sailing later, and they eventually arrive at their destination, the winter island marked by an X. Here, the crew are assaulted by a polar bear, but it's quickly dealt with by a bounty hunter who just arrived on the island named Atom. Further exploring the island, they're met with a giant. This giant happened to be crying, and the reason for his tears are the loss of a companion, the polar bear from before. For recompense, they slap some fish inside some spare boots they had on the ship, and it works. As thanks, the unnamed giant points them towards the center of the island. Atom detonates the land around the area, and the ground collapses, revealing a deep, vertical tunnel. The crew rappelled down the hole one by one. What the group had uncovered was a long-since abandoned village, dilapidated beyond repair. Eventually, they discover the supposed treasure marked by the map, a devil fruit. Upon realizing there was no actual money to be found down here, Atom double-crosses them and attacks Pearl, hoping to secure her bounty. Pearl, still unable to control her devil fruit, transforms into a giant fire-breathing dragon. Out of control, Pearl nearly murders the crew, so during the commotion, Atom retreats for his life. One near-death encounter later, and Pearl was at last defeated and returned to her normal state. The next day, the crew decide Ragnar should have the devil fruit, which we learn to be the Kuma Kuma no Mi model grizzly bear. Once reaching the plateau of the island yet again, they were met with a few changes. 1, it was no longer snowing, and 2, the giant was dead, with a hole straight through his chest. Desiring to escape the island as fast as possible and not anger whatever the hell did that, the crew decide to next set sail towards Krendor, a nearby island to stock up on supplies. Before they disembarked, Pearl was welcomed with open arms as an official member of the Devil's Luck Pirates, now comfortably able to show off her draconic traits. En route, they're approached by a marine vessel headed up by Lieutenant Hubris, who informs them of William's 10 million berry bounty and that he's under arrest for the murder of Captain Marrow's father. Hubris was more of a joke than a threat, though. The party curb-stomped Hubris and his men, with Verona shooting him dead after they were finished questioning the lieutenants. In the kitchen of the ship, the crew meets Gravy and invites him to join their crew, which he happily agrees to. On the way, they also meet Hemlock for the first time. The crew don't know this yet, but she's on her way to rescue and recruit little Timmy, who passive-aggressively threatens Gravy and informs him that he needs to find and kill Jason Locksworth. If he can do this in a timely manner, then she's sure that the boss will have it in his heart to forgive Gravy. Back on track, the crew finally arrive on Krendor, find Adam's ship, piss on Adam's bed, find Adam at a saloon, beat the shit out of him, and learn he's actually bounty hunting to pay for his sister's medical bills. Upon learning this, they hire him to assist with breaking Pearl's brother, Jasper, out of jail, as well as helping him get revenge against the steam pipe pirates who initially sold Ragnar's family into slavery. At a nearby underground casino, William takes the lead and meets Bullets. The two bets against each other in cards, resulting in an overall victory for the captain via sleights of hand, winning them the Roulette's Nomi, as well as some information on the steam pipe pirates who also happen to be located on this island. After eating the fruits, they journey through the desert and reach the enemy pirates' base, battling their way through until eventually reaching Commander Volt. They interrogate him and he reveals information on Valve's location, the Terrico Kingdom, where Duros and Pearl originate from. The crew make a quick visit to Adam's sister before commencing their journey to Terrico. Before long, Verona spots two sinking ships in the distance, one belonging to the steam pipe pirates and one belonging to the Marines. So, they investigate. Aboard, they find two tied-up men by the name of Steve and Fredrickson in the quarters. They untie the two and welcome them aboard the Yogi Poo. Upon discovering they're en route to Terrico, Steve promptly murders Fred as black tentacles erupt from his body. The group calms Steve down as they come to an agreement and decide to not ever talk to each other again once they reach Terrico. They also figure out his name isn't actually Steve, earning him the nickname Not Steve. His official name is Taco though, so I'll just be calling him that. Arriving at Terrico, Taco doesn't take long to rush into the forest, and the crew reach the prison. With Adam's explosives helping, they're able to reach the cells with ease. Here, some of Ragnar's village folk are found who inform Ragnar that the other villagers were taken and sold as slaves, also finding out that the healthier people are sold much sooner to the Grand Line, meaning there is a chance Ragnar's family is still alive. Venturing further into the prison, they reach the Prince of Terrico and brother to Pearl, Jasper, as well as Taco again. He was pissed that the man he was sent to assassinate is missing. So, he attacked the crew in a fit of rage and was eventually murdered by Ragnar. Finishing up that battle, they head towards the currently being attacked kingdom and encounter Captain Marrow on the way. Valiantly distracting the Marine captain so they may escape, Atom stood up to Marrow, costing him his life. #Yeehaw. Ripping and tearing through the steam pipe pirates on the way to the castle, they run into Bullets yet again, who also attacks them. They make quick work of her as well and even trick her into believing they're members of the Eight Flames sent to kill her, but that the contract was no longer valid, so the group let her go free. Finally arriving at the castle, the crew slam open the doors to the throne room. The battle against Captain Marrow, the man who killed Verona's father and Eustace Valve, the man who kidnapped Ragnar's wife and child and sold them to slavery, begins. The battle raged on, with Verona even going unconscious at one point. With the help of the crew though, Ragnar managed to get the finishing blow on both enemies. A skull-crushing stomp to Valve and a Kuma shredder to Marrow. Once the chaos settled, they made their way to the treasury for their reward. Jasper ended up gifting Duros his sword, Benevolence. William interrupts and asks Jasper if he wants to adopt a kid, Adam's sister. William informs him her brother was killed by Marrow earlier today. Jasper replied that as long as she isn't evil, he will make her the heir to the Terrico Kingdom. William counters, explaining that seems like a very short-sighted decision, but lets him do whatever he wants because he could care less. Also, the treasury was supposed to have a devil fruit, but there was nothing, save for a note to William from Boss. William's father figure, briefly mentioning his trip to the Grand Line and how he's gonna make a name for himself there. As an extra token of his thanks, Jasper gives them a new ship, which they dub the Yogi Poo 2. Where next but the Grand Line? The crew sail up and down Reverse Mountain, and at the base of paradise they're greeted by Louis Leclerc, standing atop a shipwreck in search of his crew. So they let him aboard their vessel in the hopes that they can help. Using his log pose, they sail toward the island Louis' crew is supposedly on, as they were separated beforehand. 2 days later, they reach their destination. To Louis' dismay, though, they find it to be destroyed. During their exploration of the desolate town, they realize there's blood and carnage about, but peculiarly no bodies. Before too long, a platoon of Marines storm the island, clearly on a mission to find someone specific. Someone we later learn to be Jason Locksworth, or Boss. Once William realizes the Marines are simply ignoring the pirates in front of them, they ask if they can just have a log post so they can leave, but Commander Bates, a man who ate the shark fruit, promptly denies them. A fire of annoyance is lit under the rogue, so they initiate combat with the platoon. Later, the crew, barring a morally conflicted Duros, enjoyed some shark fin soup. Also, Florence, one of Bates' men, was taken hostage by the crew. During their questioning of him, Louis suggests checking the other side of the island. Upon arriving, they find the town being terrorized by emotionless but animated wooden statues with humans inside of them. They soon figure out the humans weren't doing this of their own volition and are being controlled by an unknown being. After this, Verona, clearly not thinking too hard, shoots an explosive round at one of the sailing away pirate vessels belonging to the Timber Lord, killing hundreds of innocent captured survivors and scarring a child for life. Louis then explains that the Timber Lord is insane, and that he ran away because he didn't want to end up as a tree man. But even worse than that, the Timber Lord's army of slaves was made so that he could deforest entire islands to get enough wood for his effigy. Louis told the Timber Lord his actions were wrong, and for this he was labeled a sinner. The effigy is on a different island, Louis' place of birth, L'Arbor, or the Arbor, and is almost complete. So if they are to save Hertha and Magnus, they must act fast. On their way to the Arbor, they're approached by a marine ship headed up by Trevor, William's older brother, who's also searching for Jason. Reason being, he's the one who killed their parents and desires vengeance. Here, the two discover they are actually related, and William lets his bro know about any info he has on Jason, which isn't much, and he goes on his way. Finally arriving at the Arbor, they run through the jungle, beelining their way to Spruce, one of Arbor's commanders. Arriving at a giant hollow tree in the forest, they discover Spruce, revealed to only be a child, simply under the manipulation of the Arborman. They reveal the truth to Spruce by freeing his father from his wooden shell. While they talk, they investigate the greenhouse also inside the tree. Here they find a devil fruit and are also able to see a massive burning effigy, so they head towards it. After defeating Hemlock on the way, she joins them since she's been meaning to take out the boss of the Eight Flames for a while now herself, and this would put her one more step towards that, and it would be pointless to die here. They decide to fight Chuck, another one of the commanders, before the main fight. After that battle, they unravel one of the wooden statues to find Magnus, with the father and son at last reuniting, joining them to defeat the Warlord. The gigantic 8-man party soon arrives at the effigy. Coming face to face with his now 60-year-old brother, Louis finally accepts and realizes that he had, after their argument, accidentally transported himself 30 years into the future. They attempt to convince the Warlord to realize the wrongs of his ways, or even just convince him that this was his real brother standing in front of him. But to no avail. His mind had become far too twisted by the god he preaches to, thinking this was yet another test for him to overcome. After reaffirming his beliefs, the man attached himself to the effigy, initiating the battle against the Timber Lord, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, the brother to Louis Leclerc, and the man who kidnapped Ragnar's family, proving itself to be the most difficult battle yet. Even during an 8-on-1 assault, the crew pushed to their absolute limits during it, with many members of their crew falling unconscious. Of them, once awoken, Verona, clinging on to life, decides to eat the devil fruits as a last-ditch effort. The Any Nomi makes its first appearance. With the help of this new power, they were able to defeat this man. No, he could no longer be classified as that. The creature did not fall, but simply lost its life and became what it once was, an effigy. Ragnar, Hertha, and Magnus finally reunite and decide on creating a new village on the Arbor. Hertha asks Ragnar to stay, but he refuses, proclaiming there is still unfinished business with his crew to attend to. Plus, he's not the strongest in the world yet. After the battle, Boss calls William on a den mushy and tells him he loves him and he's not sure where he's been taken, but he might die. Which the love comment causes William to tear up. Also, Hemlock explains how the candles they picked up function, as Ragnar was given Hemlock's candle after defeating her. Next, Louis, to free his brother from the corruption his mind had endured for 30 years, with deep regrets, ended his brother's life with a gunshot to the head. With his brother and his old crew presumably dead, Louis is accepted as an official member of the Devil's Luck Pirates in tears with open arms, in the hope that he can discover a new familial bond with them. Upon arriving back at the ship, they're greeted by everyone's favorite character, Cleo! This scene girl turned assassin joins the group to help with the 8 Flame mission of assassinating Jason Locksworth. Since Ragnar, though not initiated yet, is viewed as the newest member of the 8 Flames after taking down number 2, Taco, and now number 6, Hemlock. Upon learning that, they set sail. Following that conversation, Florence and Verona strike a deal with one another regarding some inventions he may be able to make for them and in turn release him as a free man. After that, William walks in to find Florence had been meditating and awakened a new Zen outlook on life. And so, similar to what they did with Gravy, declares Florence an internship as a crewmate of the DLP. Speaking of Zen, or rather whatever the opposite of that is, after only less than 24 hours of being with this ungodly annoying cat girl, they attempt to push Cleo overboard. They fail and play it off as an avant-garde card trick. They stop at a nearby island to resupply. They stock up on medkits, ale, but most importantly, they perceive an armor smith. While Duros was attempting to haggle the man, Jojo, for some armor, an explosion blasts open the walls of this man's shop, and a few clowns walk in through the smoke demanding his wares. Defending the smith, the crew defeats and kill, or rather destroy the robotic clowns with ease, and are rewarded with a deal. Shatter all the evil clowns terrorizing the island like they did here, and he'll give them a special set of armor for free. Agreeing, they head towards the painfully obvious giant circus tent to defeat the leader of the clowns, Big Bozo. With legally distinct clown dubstep playing on the loudspeakers, the battle against the clown master begins. During the fight, William, about to fall into a pit of piranhas thanks to the memory Nomi he rolled as he was falling, awakens his first instance of 6 powers, Skywalk, saving his life. Like the battle at the Arbor, this one also took a toll on the crew, with many left unconscious but not dead. With the clowns dead, the crew steal a bunch of clown outfits for disguises later and head back to Jojo's shop. They arrive and that special armor he was talking about was in fact devil fruit infused, the power being that of a wolf spirit. Duros dons the wolf's name, aptly Za Wolfo. Now, that was all they were going to do on the island, but since they really hate Cleo, they decide to rid the world of some clearly corrupt Marines as a side mission. Using those disguises they just took, hilariously pretending to be clown robots, they successfully managed to trick the Marines to gather some clown equipment. But since it was so empty, they don't bother to kill the Marines residing here. Honestly, they just ended up pitying the ones that were working. After that, still not wanting to interact with Cleo, they write a letter to the rest of the crew still aboard the Yogi-Poo 2, informing them they're gonna sneak aboard a Marine vessel and make their way to G4. Where Jason Locksworth is supposedly being held themselves, and had Pearl deliver that letter. A day of travel later, and the crew arrive on G4, with everyone still hiding besides Duros, who was found out but had a plan B of disguising himself as a clown. To investigate and scope out the island, Verona animates one of the dismembered hands being delivered to G4, which is noticed by Arzen. Verona successfully managed to trick Arzen to believe that the hand was made by a freckle-faced, blue-haired Marine. A Marine we all know and love as Cyril. Arzen, ecstatic that someone was inspired by his own work, brings Cyril into another building on the base. Later, they see Cyril again in the barracks, but this time with a missing arm. Even more later, they continue to fake their Marine duties and make their way to the building on the west end of the base, and inside discover residing in clear tubes, humans with animal parts grafted to them, with many just barely hanging on to life in deep pain. Also, Trevor's there, screaming at his subordinates while reprimanding him for accidentally putting a devil fruit they found with the food supplies for lunch. In a fit of a rage-filled annoyance, he sliced him down, killing him instantly. Next, seeing through their rather simple disguises and fake tears from the captain, Trevor realizes they are in fact here to save Boss. The older brother begins choking out William, deciding to neutralize them for the time being. After seconds of combat, the Commodore absolutely overpowers the crew, forcing their group to concede and follow him to the prison cells / operating room of the tower. Here they meet Boss, who, like the bodies in the room with Trevor, has animal parts grafted to his body and seems to be in immense pain. They reminisce as much as they can, and William does manage to lockpick his cuffs. But before long, Arzen returns to the operating room with Trevor, who is begging Arzen not to proceed with his plan. But the mad scientist is far too invested in his experiments to create the perfect life form to even comprehend what Trevor is saying. William now moves to the operating table, rolls his fruit. It's the Shatter Nomi. Just before Arzen commences the operation, William shatters the table, causing Arzen to miss. During the confusion, William dashes to the cell where his friends are and shatters the ground below, dropping them to the robotics room, meeting Captain Verona. Not much time for a reunion though, because we're going down again, shattering into the living quarters. And next, shattering the wall of the tower, revealing the outside world. Pearl attempts to grab Ragnar and Verona and glide down, but Arzen easily jumps atop her mid-air. Verona, attempting to force Arzen to lose his grip, throws a grenade, which explodes, but Arzen is able to dodge most of the blow. Now, with Arzen's attention on Verona, he is injected with a dose of sleeping serum, ripping Verona from Pearl's grasp. Arzen floats over and lands atop the Marine barracks, with Verona as a sleeping hostage in his arms. William, panicking, re-rolls his Devil Fruit once again. Aided by the Devil's Luck itself, he lands on the Collar Nomi, a Devil Fruit allowing its user to control someone if a color is placed on them. William attempts just that on his older brother, and he succeeds! The events that most likely would go down to save this entire mission, along with their lives. And with that, Commodore Trevor versus Vice Admiral Arzen begins. With Arzen distracted by Trevor, the crew initiates a full retreat in an attempt to escape the base. Pearl, who is flying along with Verona, hurtled towards the docks to secure a ship. Meanwhile, Ragnar, with William and Boss atop his back, gallops full speed towards the gate's mechanism to open it, but is intercepted by Vice Admiral Arzen. As this happens, Captain Verona is smashed through the tower wall, opening a hole directly above the one they made earlier. And following her delivering the blow is Hemlock saddled up on her giant serpent, with Blake making his first appearance behind her, now also summoning his giant blazing hound. They reveal the contract on Jason is now null and has been altered to Marine Captain Verona. In retaliation, Captain Verona shoots beams out of her eyes, but also while that happens, Pearl has almost reached the docks, but just before she does, is shot down by the Marine tasked to keep watch over the harbor during the night, who is revealed to have eaten the Water Nomi. Cyril! Verona in that same group uses Talk no Jutsu, explaining the truth of how Viridian, Cyril's hero, was murdered by Marrow, and convinces the ambivalent Marine to join their cause. Just then, William's 10 minutes runs out, and Trevor awakens in a frenzy. Arzen explains he may require a demotion for attacking a Vice Admiral, but this only enrages the Commodore. Even without the collar, their battle continues. William rolls his fruit as a last chance for romance and lands on the Salt Nomi. Duros in the meantime reaches the docks and finally, with a speech, pushes Cyril from the fence to the other side. Then Pearl grabs Verona with her talons and raises him to the top of the tower. Meanwhile, Captain Verona's life finally meets its end by the two flames with a bit of help from William and Ragnar chucking javelins at her. With a poisonous dagger piercing her brain, she begins convulsing before going limp. Verona in the distance could be seen signaling a thumbs up as they reach the top of the tower, opening the first gate, and soon the next. But then, it almost seems as if the world goes still for a moment. Cyril, only just a Marine private, only recently acquiring this power to control water, in a split second steadies his aim and steels himself to rid the world of this corruption, to rid the world of the stain on the Marines. With an aqua pump straight through the heart, Vice Admiral Arzen falls to the ground like a puppet whose strings had been cut. Almost immediately after, William is barraged with a fury of blows from Trevor. He manages to tank it though, and 1, blinds him, and 2, disarms him. Duros then slices into Trevor, but again, dealing the final blow, Cyril waterboards Trevor, causing him to fall unconscious. Cyril, still unsure of what he truly must do, knows he doesn't want to, or rather cannot be, a Marine any longer after having killed a Vice Admiral and knocking a Commodore unconscious. So he agrees to go along with the crew for the time being. Everyone aside from the two flames board the Marine vessel and use Captain Verona's laser eyes to jet out of the port. And with that, the Devil's Luck pirates have successfully escaped G4. After a day's travel, they arrive back at the Yogi Poo 2 to find Louis bloodied and unconscious, Florence dead, and Gravy missing. They stabilize Louis, who then informs them a man with pale skin, Valentine, the Seventh Flame, kidnapped Gravy, presumably to bring the former assassin back to the organization. Aided by a note their cook sneakily left behind, they beeline for the Eight Flames hideout. Also on the way, Boss teaches them the basics of hockey to each of their specialties. Eventually, a few days of sailing later, they had eventually arrived on top of where it was supposed to be. Thanks to the candle's tracking system, they knew the general area of where it was, but once on top of the GPS location, all they found was an aisle seemingly only inhabited by one man running a Hawaiian juice shack. They order some pineapple juice, as it is in fact the best juice, and hand him the candle, and their entry is granted. They descend the elevator, and through the glass tube of the lift, see a bustling underwater city held in by glass domes, with buildings constructed from gold and wood alike. The darkness of the ocean plunging the city into a never-ending night, with the streets adorned by hanging lanterns and neon signs advertising casinos, bars, nightclubs, brothels, and the like. Greeted by Helper, his name precedes him, and the crew is informed of the 3 casino dons who control the oasis: Roulette, the Elephant, and the Prospector. Helper explained that they would most likely be the ones who have information on the Flames. Deciding to try their luck with the Queen's Gambit, the casino managed by Roulette, they ask around, do some gambling. Verona utterly fails to animate a quiet cheat dice. Ragnar flips the table after winning during Roulette's. You know, the usual business. Once finally reaching Roulette's, she sends them on a mission to steal back a diamond thieved from her by the Elephants. If successful, the location of the hideout will be revealed. They arrive at the Elephant's casino, named the Elephant. Very on the nose there, Rustage. And witness Bullets getting beat the shit out of in the process of being kicked out of the establishment. With her older brother Pallet being killed by the Eight Flames, she, like the crew, desires to figure out the location of the Eight Flames hideout. While waiting for the rest of the crew, the main Thor and Bullets order a bacon sandwich from Kevin Bacon, and then devise a heist to steal the diamond. To be very brief, it involves Ragnar, Duros, and Louis causing a havoc on the main floor, Verona and Cyril on lookout on the inside of the casino, with Bullets outside keeping watch, along with the Steel team being William and Pearl. The two are led down to the meeting room and come face to face with the Elephants. As soon as they hear the ruckus upstairs, they waste no time. William chucks a smoke bomb at the Elephant's face. Pearl smashes the diamond's glass container, snags the jewel, and the two make a mad dash out of the building as they gather the rest of the crew and make a beeline to the Queen's Gambit. Back in Roulette's lounge, the Don informs them she tricked the crew earlier when asking for William's autograph. She in fact has the contract Nomi, forcing the one who signs a sheet imbued with her Devil Fruit's energy to obey the conditions on the contract. After realizing she's outnumbered, she plays it off as a joke. Delivering on her end of the bargain, she explains the hideout they're on the hunt for is below Spinkle's special substances. Being the pirates they are, burn the contract William signed and don't in fact give her the diamond, but rather keep it for their own sakes, completely destroying any possible plans Roulette had mustered. Reaching Spinkle's shop, William snags a few substances, and then the crew plus Bullets continue forward to the back room's elevator. They descend further down. The blackness of the cobalt-tinted sea soon fades as they plunge beneath the ocean into the seabed, descending further until the ding of the elevator rings out and are greeted with a dingy, medieval-style room lit by candles. The only thing in the immediate vicinity is a reception desk, along with 2 hallways, one to the right and one behind the desk. Audibly, though, they're greeted with indiscernible wails of pain. Reluctantly, the receptionist, who is only a child, decides to contact the boss to pencil in an initiation for Ragnar, and leaves for the hall behind him. Soon after, a different boy takes his place, and with the crew's patience growing thin, promptly knock him out, and the 8-man party move forward, eventually setting foot inside the oversized planetarium, where they're greeted by a miffed Cleo and an apathetic Hemlock. Understanding it's time for a battle, the two sides charge at one another, which over the course of the next minute or so ends with Bullet's gun locked into Cleo's mouth, her head exploding as the trigger is pulled. Before any celebration could be had, though, Valentine appears, forcing the crew into a fight once more. Hemlock, who was already on the edge of defying her organization, is pushed over the fence with a persuasive speech from Ragnar. and she joins their side. As the battle against the vampire reaches its climax, the crew begin to falter. Ragnar drops, falling unconscious. Duros and Pearl just barely hanging on to life. Louis is terrified, and Verona is under Valentine's control. Though weak, Duros valiantly walks forward, knowing the man in front of him is on death's door, and swiftly pierces him with the Holy Sword Benevolence, successfully disintegrating Valentine to ash. Agreeing to defeat the boss together, their immediate group goes to the bar area of the base and meets up with 1. Little Timmy, the kid from Gallows Island, and 2. Blake, still blissfully unaware of his lover's death. Letting them know they're gonna kill the boss, Blake is surprisingly gung-ho about it, claiming he hates him. On the way were the assassins' bedrooms, where they stopped at Taco's room and picked up his octopus Yaki, feeling bad for the fella having killed his master and all. After that, they enter through the double doors at the end of the hall, sets foot in a very minuscule steel-walled room, and through that door is a circular room that could be described as oddly futuristic for the world of One Piece. In the center is a raised platform. Sitting atop that platform, in a chair with tubes and wires attached to it, is the leader of the 8 Flames, V. Below him, Gravy lays strapped down to a table about to be operated on. Verona takes the initiative and fires the first round at V, and has 2 elemental robots behind him. But the bullets are caught midair by an invisible robot, soon shedding its coating, revealing itself. In that moment, 19 other robots begin emerging from thin air, filling up what once was a seemingly open space, totaling 23 enemies, retaliating the rest of the Flames' animal companions in large, generating their grand total to be 16, but are just as easily denied by V, collapsing each and every one of them in an instant, subtracting that number to 12. Now, with V nearly doubled in numbers, the true battle to defeat the 8th Flame, Verona's grandfather, begins. Many robots begin falling one by one, but an ally falls as well. Little Timmy is unfortunately scorched to ash. They continue smashing at the ridiculously resistant glass dome around V, while simultaneously fending off the robotic assault. At last, after taking the brunt of the explosions from the bomb-implanted children and pregnant women alike, they do eventually breach the glass. V winces, stating it wasn't quite time yet, but that this will have to do, and presses a large red button on his chair. Suddenly, the room starts rumbling, as if an earthquake were occurring. The whirring of a jet could be heard below them, and following that, through a window they could see the ocean start to move downwards. They begin to rise faster and faster, gaining further altitude. They'd gone past the sea level at this point, but it only seemed like they were still gaining momentum. Outside was the sky, but even the sky was dropping as well. They erupt past the clouds, as V's maniacal laugh could be heard over the rumbling of the ship, boasting his life's work to his grandson, all the while still rising ever more. The clouds but a white blur as they ascend past even them, until blackness. As they see the stars, the void consumes them, but they continue moving. The ship has a destination. It has an objective. As they look out the window, the planet becomes smaller and smaller until but a speck. To be continued. Hey everyone, before I end the video, I just want to give a quick shout out to my other channel, which is kind of a secret on this channel until this point in time, which I run the Rustage D&D and Tekken clips, but not really Tekken clips anymore because I don't clip that anymore. But anyway, but mainly the Rustage D&D clips channel is me. It's run by me. So go over there. I just changed it to KazuTwo so you can find it easier. If you want to know the meaning behind that name, it's my 5th YouTube account. So KazuTwo, KazuTrash5, you get it? Okay, anyway. And also, I just want to say, I'm sorry for the audio quality in this episode. For some weird reason, when I recorded this, I went up to the mic like this, which is why you hear so many pops and sounds, you know? Anyway, I'm sorry for that. And anyway, I hope you liked the video. That's basically all I wanted to say. So, have a good day, everyone. Peace out.